Arizona Fall League roster breakdown, part one here. We're proactively breaking this into two parts because you and I knew that we were not going to get all of this into one episode. But I'm excited because this is actually, I think, the deepest these rosters have been, at least, especially on the pitching side. So, even more reason to proactively break this into two. And we're going to go through three rosters of the AFL this time around. And then the next episode will be the other three rosters. Will go big league team by big league team, but of course, staying consistent with each ball club. So you know where we're going with it. But Jack, I'm excited to even tell you about some of these arms that I wasn't too familiar with before we recorded this. And I did a little crash course over the last day and a half. The Rays are sending some interesting dudes. Surprise, surprise. There's a couple other arms that are really fascinating that have just been a fun dive for me. So I'm just really amped about these AFL lineups. I don't think I've ever been this amped for AFL lineups, at least not since 2019.
I don't think the Rays are on surprise. I see surprises Baltimore, Houston, Texas, Kansas City, Cleveland. You see what I did there?
Yes.
It was funny. So we hop on and I was like, I've got these three teams ready to roll. And you're like, no, actually, these three teams. You strong-armed me.
I mandated Mesa because the Rays just sent out a bunch of former two-way guys that all have crazy stuff that I want to talk about. So yeah, I did mandate Mesa on this episode.
I'm here. So we're doing the Desert Dogs, we're doing the Solar Sox, and we're doing the Javelinas, which will be great. So I do have to get some merch when I'm out there. Like I'm gonna get a T-shirt, and I have to decide if I'm a Saguaros fan or
I say it every time, and then I don't because I look at the stores and
it's like
oh,
it's kind of crappy.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it this year, no matter what. And I gotta say, I'm gonna decide. Like we'll go. We're not gonna give our answer until we've done the full breakdowns of every roster. So at the end of next episode, and this isn't the best team. I just want you to pick your favorite team based on just the player intrigue, maybe some fun narratives in there, and that's gonna be the team that you're a fan of. The early favorite for me is Mesa, just because of the funny stories behind some of these arms that are like crazy. But I'm very, very much open right now, and I probably won't decide either, even officially on my own until we go through each of these rosters, because there are a lot of fun wrinkles on each of these teams, whether it's the high profile prospects or some of the more fascinating, emergent stories, which is why I love the AFL too, right? It's not just a place for the top prospects to get reps. It's also a place for that guy who just started pitching like a year ago to get more reps and just see what you got there. And then it's also the place for the big leaguer that didn't play much this season, or got sent back to the minor leagues and hasn't quite figured it out again, to get more reps as well. So it's just like this wild crossroads of stories and different points in which you are at in your development that I think makes it really fun. And I'm going to pick the team littered with the most fun stories there, which I don't know yet, but we will by the time we're done with these two episodes.
I love that. Before we do that, I do have to tell you a little bit about an event that you are flying to tomorrow. Okay. We're really excited because eBay Live is the place to experience all the excitement and the huge pulls on sports card breaks. They've been running breaks 7 days a week from vetted breakers, and we're like amped to be one of those breakers now. We're thrilled to be partnering with eBay for a special charity box break and playoff watch party at 4 o'clock Eastern on October 2nd. That's on Wednesday. So if you're in the New York City area, you can join us in person at Bleecker Trading. That's 96 Christopher Street in Manhattan. Come watch the wild card round with the Just Baseball team. Enjoy some free pizza and giveaways courtesy of our friends at Homage Apparel. If you cannot join us in person, here's how to join a break on eBay Live so you can follow along. You find a break by tapping on eBay Live on the app. So you go to the eBay app and you go to the eBay Live section. Then you scroll down and click to see all of the available breaks. You click buy spot if you want to and choose what kind of items you want to call dibs on. Use the search feature to find the player, the team, the division that you want. Don't forget to set a reminder. You can click the alarm icon button or tap remind me, so you'll also get a notification when the break does start at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. So again, tune in 4 o'clock on Wednesday on eBay Live. Join us for the special charity box break and playoff watch party at 4 o'clock Eastern. Visit the link in our link tree for more details on that, but I know you're really excited for that one.
Oh, I'm very pumped to make my breaking debut and for a great cause as well. We're gonna rip some 2023 Bowman Chrome and some 2024 Topps Chrome. So if you buy a spot, you'll have all the players from whatever team you buy a spot in for both of those products. There, it's gonna be one break with those two products combined there. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. You got if you're really chasing some prospects in 2023 Chrome, you got that there. But then also we got the rookies, which is a loaded class, of course, in this year's 2024 Topps Chrome. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Great cause. If you're in New York, would love to see you there. But of course, the proceeds going to Conine's Club Pass and Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital. So that makes it even more special. But I'm pumped to make my break-in debut. I hope I do it all right. And I build the suspense enough too. The only thing is I don't have that feel for like when the auto is coming sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas like people like know when the auto is about to come, they slide it to the back and they want to build the suspense more. Like with me, it's going to be different. You might just have that auto pop out of nowhere, and maybe that's a new type of surprise that's fun. But very much looking forward to it, and it's going to be the first of hopefully plenty of similar instances where we can do something like this with eBay Live. So looking forward to it.
Very strategic hat choice for you today as well.
Yes. Just in case people forgot, you can see right there, Fleeker Trading and the pizza, by the way, really good.
The pizza, where is it? Is it Joe's?
I think we're going to Trial Industry, which is right next door, but the line's always out the door. If not, across the street the other way is Mama's 2. If you're ever in New York in the West Village, those are two places you got to try some pizza. It is top notch.
Really? I figured, are you just a cheese guy?
Yeah, just go cheese pizza.
Really?
That's how you got it. It's a true way to try a pizza and really know how good it is, I think.
Yeah, you and Portnoy, right? That's good.
Yeah.
Love that.
I definitely want to identify with.
You ready to talk Desert Dogs?
Hell yeah.
Let's do it. Let's talk about the Glendale Desert Dogs. This roster is comprised of the White Sox, the Reds, the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the Cardinals. These are the Glendale Desert Dogs. So their home games are in Glendale. And we're going to walk through team by team. We'll start with the White Sox here. And I'm going to give you the names of guys. And Aram, you hit me with the names that jump out to you. And I feel like there are some obvious ones, obviously, with like top 100 prospects and all that. But there are others.
Before we start, I'll call my shot with this team. This team's leading the league in walks.
Yeah, I could see that.
We'll get into that, but this team's leading the damn league in walks.
Yeah, and maybe walks issued too. Like
no, that's what I meant. Walks issued. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking walks drawn, sure, but like walks issued, yeah, no
walks
doubt
issued. We'll get into it, but yeah, there's a lot of fun names though. With that said.
Yeah, the White Sox, they're sending catcher Michael Turner. They're sending DJ Gladney, an outfielder, and the infield, Tim Elko, stand up. Colson Montgomery, who essentially played a whole year in AAA, but I think they want to build him to close to 162, it seems. And then the pitching assortment that they're sending, Eric Adler, Andrew Dahlquist. I learned this name last year because I think he went with the Rangers. Anthony Hoopy Tuayo Natoa is going. Peyton Pallette is going, and Grant Taylor is going. Colson is clearly the name that jumps out here, but I will say two pitchers that I'm very intrigued by are Pallette and Grant Taylor.
I mean, yeah, Colson is just, can we see him maybe in this environment, make some mechanical adjustments? We talked about it on, the White Sox top prospect episode where, you can see the things that are affecting him right now in the box. So it's really hard to make those adjustments when you're playing at the highest level you've played in your career and you're one of the youngest players at that level. So now getting back to the fall league, somewhere he's been before, I'm interested to just see if he makes any adjustments in the box, because clearly, some of the movements that he was doing and some of the things that he was just trying to achieve in the box, I think we're kind of taking him away from what he had done naturally before. So just kind of hitting the reset button, hopefully, and making some adjustments would be great. But on the pitching side, I think you nailed it. Peyton Pallette really settled into this reliever role where he looks quite good. And I'm just interested to see how they use him. Do they try to stretch him out a little bit more, or do they really lean into this 1 to 2 inning reliever guy that was just utterly dominant down the stretch? So like that's going to be an interesting wrinkle in this regardless. But even if they are still leaning into the 2 inning thing, like if you include the postseason, Jack, he threw 42 2/3 innings over his final 22 appearances to a 0.84 ERA. And that was split pretty evenly between AA and high A. So just 4 earned runs in 42 2/3 innings, 52 punch outs, and 11 walks. This is a guy that looks like he could be fast tracked to the big leagues, if he has a really impressive fall league here too. And if he does that, this is a unique big leaguer too, because he could be kind of that multi-inning opener for you. He could be that swingman type if you want to stretch him out to 3 or 4, or he could be a high leverage reliever because the stuff clearly plays. He was sitting 96 in those shorter spurts.
I'm thinking Kopech has more talent, but the Kopech arc is very present in Paulette, and you have the organization too. It makes it easier, but like Kopech, you saw high leverage relief stuff there, and the question was how long can he go? And he was one of the best in baseball at going 2 or 3. I'm not saying that Paulette is going to be one of the best 2 or 3 inning relievers in Major League Baseball, but he can fill that role for the White Sox, and I think be pretty darn good at it.
And yeah, exactly. And you need those guys, right? You got 9 innings. And as you're trying to put together a competitive, 26-man roster, those guys are really important too. We talk about the starting pitching. That's great. But you need those relievers that aren't just, okay, this guy's hot this year, like, let's hope it sustains. Like, no, this is a guy that you can count on year over year over year. And I think Paulette is that. And who knows, maybe year 2 or 3 of his big league career, they could maybe transition him back into the rotation if they think it looks like he is heading in that direction. But Grant Taylor, a guy that transitioned into the rotation at LSU, but unfortunately didn't really get the opportunity to showcase that. We talked about him in the White Sox top prospect episode, because he's a guy that if he got to throw more this season would have easily been a top 100 prospect before going down with a lat issue, which I think was residual effects of that Tommy John surgery. This guy was utterly dominant. I know it was low A, but that stuff would have played anywhere. In those 4 appearances, he struck out 25 in 16 innings, allowed just 2 earned runs. This guy's getting 20-plus inches of vert from a below-average release height. He's sitting 96. He gets plus extension. He's got a pair of banger breaking balls. Like, this guy has some of the best stuff. I think if you ask me the question, like, who has the best stuff of a starting pitching prospect that's not in the top 100, my answer, I think, would be Grant Taylor. So I'm very excited to just see this guy throw. Period. And hopefully he can stay healthy, because that's kind of been the trend for him, unfortunately.
Honorable mention would certainly be Mick Abel, but we'll see what you do with Mick Abel at the end of season update. But I have a feeling he's not going to be top 100, and his stuff is there, but that's
actually, it's funny because it's like, I wonder if Abel was around the zone, if he'd get as much as Taylor was, like if he'd get as much whiff. By the way, Taylor, 32 strikeouts, 2 walks in that professional debut this year. But I think there's a case to be made that Taylor might even have better louder stuff. When you look across the board and you look at the extension numbers too, and the things that he can do there.
Got you. Let's go to the Cincinnati Reds here. Speaking of Louder, although Louder will not be there. The Cincinnati Reds are sending Tyler Callahan in the outfield, sending Edwin Arroyo and Christian Encarnacion Strand in the infield. That's where the intrigue lies. But how about this pitching group? Jose Acuna, who I saw made his AAA debut, and I was pretty darn impressed. Luis May is going as well. Connor Phillips is going, and Carson Rudd is going as well. Connor Phillips was really bad for 5 months. And then for a month, it was like, oh, there you are. I'm very excited for Edwin Arroyo and CES, but Connor Phillips is like, can you give me 2 months instead of 1 month of like, oh, there you are.
The only player I've asked for to be added to the dev list in my entire life on this show, and not
maybe
for
Joshua
any reason.
Mears. You might have asked for Joshua Mears of the Padres to get added.
maybe Mears, but at least pitching wise, for sure. And not because I don't want to see Connor Phillips on the field, it's because I know how talented he is. And it just was clear that they were just setting him up for failure by having him go out there every 5th day until he had a little bit of a reset. He got that reset, and when he came back, he looked exponentially better. I know he set the bar pretty low with how rough it was out of the gate, but those 5 starts since coming off the dev list, he had a 2.49 ERA, 21 2/3 innings, 10 walks. I know that that's not like Greg Maddux level command, but my goodness, if he was doing that in the first half of the season, he probably would have never hit the dev list. 24 strikeouts in that span as well. So looking a lot more like Connor Phillips, again, a guy that, has a phenomenal fastball breaking ball combination that can play in a big league bullpen tomorrow if he throws strikes. So the thing is he can start. We saw him go 6 innings in 2 of his final 4 starts of the year. And that's just what I want to see more of again, right? Can he get back to the 2023 Connor Phillips, which was very clearly a top 100 prospect and very clearly a guy that had middle rotation upside. So, I mean, the dev list time, the other side of it too is like preserved his innings to where, he can go out here and throw, 20 plus innings, and you're not going to be worried about it because he had that break where he wasn't throwing nearly as many innings. So I think that side of it is important too. But the Reds' arms are part of the reason why I think this team may lead in walks. Because even a better Connor Phillips is going to walk some guys. Luis May has crazy stuff, but my goodness, he will spray it. And I mean, he's a reliever. He's going to touch triple digits pretty consistently. And I think he's been up to 103, if I'm not mistaken. But he also walks 17% of batters this
Nice.
year.
Yeah.
43 walks against 63 strikeouts. So, like, that's a guy that's going to give away a lot of free passes too. But if the stuff is anywhere near the zone, you're probably not hitting it. So that side of it is fun. Anything else on the arms? I know you mentioned Acuna, and I think that's a guy that I honestly haven't seen much of. So I'm excited to just see what it looks like. And
Yeah,
then I know they've got a kid from the Netherlands. Is it Arij?
Arish Branson, I want to say.
Yeah.
No, I mean Acuna, I liked, and it's not crazy stuff, and it's not necessarily kitchen sinky either. It's just like a fastball that plays better than it probably should in the low 90s, and things like that. I saw him slice and dice in his debut and execute 3 pitches, and that kind of excites me. Where like I do think Cincinnati needs more of that, especially when you have a guy like Connor Phillips. If you can find other iterations of Rhett Lauder, just like at a lower level, Julian Aguiar has proven to be an
Yeah.
innings eater. Carson Spires has proven to be an innings eater, and I think that Jose Acuna falls in that bucket.
They need innings eaters that are better than Levi Stout.
Yeah,
Right? Like
no
you need a
doubt.
guy that
And
can
they
get
found
up
2
there.
of them already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that's a great point, and still very young too. Not even 22 yet is Jose Acuna.
Mhm.
On the position player side, like Christian Encarnacion Strand, I mean, he's too old for this show. But no, it's just great to see him get those reps, and I mean, he's a guy that I thought could have had a big year at the big league level this season. So
Yeah.
just one of those instances where a big leaguer, seeps into this conversation, and he should.
Is this is where you can use the phrase like "put the fries in the bag, bro"? Like, is that where you can use this?
Like, no, because he's good. But
So Cam Rising at Utah, that's a put
yes,
the
Cam
fries in the
Rising is
bag,
where
bro.
you can do
Okay,
that.
got it.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Arroyo last year. This is another person who, like, I mean, this is why we got this league, right? Like, it sucks that he didn't have an opportunity here to get himself, I think, really on that timeline where you could be looking at an early 2025 debut, but he can make up for lost time here. And I think, we'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if he has a really, really good Arizona Fall League and a good spring, if they aggressively assign him to AAA because of his polish and his defense. But regardless, I think it's just an opportunity to get his feet back under him again. If they assign him to double where he finished the year last year, it can allow him to kind of push through there quicker. I don't know where he fits into the big league equation, but with the struggles of like Noelvi Marte and the injury proneness of some of these other players, having a guy up there that can also play every single spot in the infield at a high level and is a switch hitter, I think is definitely somebody that you want to have in the upper minors and in the fold there. So nice to get him some reps. And then, I feel like we've been hearing a lot about Tyler Callahan in these kind of situations where it's like they won't fully give up on him. Like they're going to keep giving him reps. And here he is again, getting more reps. I get it because the field to hit has always kind of been there. But this was a step in the right direction. I feel like this year for him, it was a decent year in a league that is not easy to hit in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a chance here where you have a bench, utility type. He played left, he played second. I think he can play a little bit of third or first base. So I think they're hoping that they have, a bench or utility, hitter here who did add a little bit more power this season.
Got you. Let's go to the Dodgers here. This is a pretty underwhelming group, to be honest, that the Dodgers send with one very fun guy, and that's Zaire Hope, the outfielder. Couple of infielders they send. Jake Geloff, who had a pretty good year at the lower levels. I felt like he was a double-A guy masquerading in low A and high A. Sean McClain is also going an infielder, and then their pitching group, Kelvin Bautista, Alex Marakevich, Kelvin Ramirez, Jerming Rosario, and Eric Swan. That's the group. I don't know anything about any of these pitchers, to be quite honest with you. Hope is the one that I'm very excited to see because he was killing the lower levels and limited in terms of playing time.
Oh man, I'm so excited to see Zaire Hope. He's probably top of my list of players. And anyone who listens to the show obviously knows that I was amped about that one. But I think I even got some tweets at me about it. So I mean, just getting an opportunity to see him play more games and see him in person is going to be great. I mean, 62 games is all we really got, and that's including the rehab, appearances for him this year. So just to be able to get more games under his belt and just see what it looks like. And for guys like Zaire Hope, this is actually an opportunity. If people talk about it, oh, it's a hitter friendly environment, this and that. This is an opportunity to face more advanced arms. Yeah, there's going to be some guys coming in there that spray and don't throw strikes, and him being a 15% chase rate guy, like he's going to just walk. But this is also an opportunity to see stuff that he probably wasn't really seeing in low A, and just see quality of pitching that he wasn't seeing. So whether he struggles, succeeds, whatever it may be, there's going to be a lot of good intel that comes from this opportunity. And I think that's going to be huge, considering that his season was cut short and he's only been able to play at the low A level. And this is a guy that has the talent to climb up prospect rankings quickly and climb up the minors quickly, as long as he's just available and on the field.
Yeah. Any pitchers jump out to you? Or
well, I was gonna say on Geloff too, by the way. I was underwhelmed still. Like, I just don't really see it with him. So I'm hoping, that maybe getting an in-person look and seeing if he, makes some adjustments in the box, if there's something there. Eric Swan throws fuzz, 6'6", 240.
Nice.
I also love Eric, ERIQ,
Yeah.
which is just a cool way to spell it. But Swan's got some loud stuff. So that's a guy that, and that's what it just seems like with this year. I know they've always got guys, in the Arizona Fall League coming out of these pens that throw hard, but it just seems like there's a ton this year. I mean, he's sitting 98 in a lot of his outings this year. I think he averaged on the season a little over 97. So that's definitely a guy I'm interested in seeing. I don't have a ton on like Kelvin Ramirez or the other arms that they sent, but
German
I know Eric
Rosario.
Yeah, I don't have a ton there, but I am excited to see Eric Swan. I think he's got some loud stuff, and I think all these guys that the Dodgers are sending are pretty much mid 90s. It's just different levels of I think pitch shapes and stuff like that. But Swan, I think, is the one to watch.
Everybody, regardless of organization, is mid 90s now. If you're not, you're falling behind the 8 ball. But we've got 2 teams left on the Desert Dogs to go through here. And we'll jump in with the Philadelphia Phillies. They send Jordan Disson, a catcher. They also send Gabriel Rincones, the outfielder. I'm excited to see him. Otto Kemp had a great year this year. Kemp on the older side is going to be there. Brian Rincon is also going to be there. And then the pitchers they send: Tristan Garnett, Griff McGarry, Christian McGowan, Wesley Moore, and our guy Wenwei Pon. This is going to be a good crew. Wenwei Pon threw a bunch of innings in low A we talked about. So they're continuing to level him up, I guess.
Yeah, which is fun. I'm very pumped to see Wenwei Pon. I mean, he had a great year. Taiwanese, 6'3", 220, and can really, I mean, he can really throw it hard. So I that's just a guy that I just want to see do his thing and just get an opportunity to see what it all looks like up close. And that's why the AFL is fun, because you can just get right behind home plate. He's had outings. And also what's interesting is the velo fluctuations, right? Where, I mean, we had some outings where he was sitting 98. There were some others where he's sitting more 95. So what does it look like while we're out there? That I'm just generally looking forward to seeing. Another part of the reason why I think this ball club leads the league in walks is Griff McGarry. But I just want to see if Griff McGarry can find the zone a little bit now and maybe a more calm environment where his Lehigh Valley fans won't boo him if he doesn't. But, I mean, we know that McGarry has crazy, crazy stuff. And the pitch shapes are there. It's just, can he be anywhere around the zone? So I'm just looking forward to seeing if he can do that, because, I mean, that's a guy that could absolutely fill into their bullpen next year. And Wenwei Pon could definitely expedite his path through, where now that he's fully leaning into the reliever side, I think with his strong showing in the AFL, he could be a guy that they really feel good about aggressively pushing, when we get to next season.
Dude, I mean, it's like, it is brutal that he was booed in Lehigh Valley, but it is decent prep for where you're going at the next step, right? Like, I mean, you get ready for Philly. Griff McGarry, if he has those performances like that in Philly, like, he's going to get booed. We know that. So, hopefully this is a low stress environment for him, surely. Last but not least.
Sorry. I got one more for you. Brian Rincon, we just talked about in the Philly system.
Yeah.
I love that he's on the same ball club as Edwin Arroyo. And I know they're not far apart in age at all, but Edwin Arroyo seems like he's kind of, I know Edwin Arroyo is not a finished product either, but Arroyo is like the next step ahead of where Rincon needs to be, a switch hitting, glove first, shortstop / middle infielder that's undersized. Arroyo has really leaned into that and has kind of figured out how to I think, be the next phase of that evolution. And he's one more, I think, step away from being the big league version of that evolution, assuming health and everything. Rincon's also struggled to stay healthy, but Rincon has a superb glove and has, the switch hitting ability. I do like the idea of these guys being on the same team here. And it is a guy that I'm still interested in seeing because that glove is so damn good that if I can just see a 90 WRC plus bat, he's a big leaguer for a long time. So when the bar is that low for a guy offensively, I'm always more interested to watch because it's like, just give me something. Just give me a little something and I can run with that. And I think he's capable of doing that still.
And they're sending a Rincon and a Rinconess, which is great. So we get both of them.
Yes. Oh, they sent Rinconess again?
Mm-hmm. They sent Gabriel Rinconess again.
Of course they did.
So last but not least on the Desert Dogs, the St. Louis Cardinals here. Leonardo Bernal is going, the catcher. Outfielder Nathan Church is going. Thomas Sajazi is going, the infielder. And then their pitching group is Trent Baker, Alex Cornwell, Ivan Henderson, Bryson Motts, and Matt Swanson. I think it's Swanson, right?
Is it Ivan Henderson? Or is it
X?
Isan.
He's Isan Henderson?
Isan.
Eichson?
He's from California. That's one I would love to test out. If we can find that one out eventually, because it's a cool name. I love it. It's just I want to make sure I say it right.
It is sick. I have no idea.
It's a really cool name.
Sajazi's the cool big league talent here going, but Bernal, like that's somebody that I'm excited to see.
No doubt. Bernal is I think one of the more underrated prospects in that Cardinals system. Kind of hoped he would take a leap this year. He didn't quite take a leap, but he's a catcher. Catchers never take a leap the year that you want them to take the leap. It's always a year or two out. Switch hitting catcher that is still just 20 years old. This is just important reps for him. And he finished the year in Double-A and had some really good games down the stretch in Double-A as well. I mean, there's a lot to like here. There's above average EVs. Like there's a pretty well-rounded game that could be had here as he develops. So this is a dude that I've wanted to see in person for a little while, but he got out of South Florida too quickly. I didn't get to see him in West Palm, and so I'm just excited to see the defensive side of things and go from there. Real quick, also on Rinconess, Gabriel Rinconess. This was a big step in the right direction for him this year after going to the AFL last year. So this could be an opportunity to keep building on that and play himself into a situation where he's in triple and could be that first guy up to plug in like Weston Wilson has and some of the other Phillies have, or be a trade chip. And I do think that he's kind of fits the bill of the kind of guys that could end up being trade chips that get an audition in front of all these other scouts as well. Because Rinconess has turned himself into a nice, solid prospect.
For sure.
But Sajazi, I think they just want him to probably capitalize on some of the positive momentum he had in the second half and just keep doing that and keep working because they probably want to figure out if this guy can be on the opening day roster next year. And I always say, like, for those types of candidates, usually spring training isn't enough, right? Unless something happens that makes it easier to decide, like an injury or whatever. So having that runway of the Arizona Fall League and then leading into, I think, spring training, you can have a little bit more conviction in your decision. If he balls out in the Fall League, shows some things that they wanted to see defensively, and then has a really good spring, I think then at that point, maybe the Cardinals are a little bit more bullish and comfortable with him breaking camp. And with his versatility, I think there's a good chance he could do that. Are there any other players, on the pitching side or anything that you're excited to see here, or any guys that you saw in AAA or anything? Because I think on the Cardinals pitching side, I'm unless I'm missing, Bryson Motts has had some nice stretches.
Yeah, I'm tapped aside from Bryson Motts, but Motts is just another like McGreevy, Graceffo, just a couple levels lower on the ladder.
Yeah, it's 90-91 from the left side. Yeah. I think it's got a little bit more giddy up than it looks like on the radar gun. But he's a guy that can. I like the comparison. It's just kind of the Cardinals mold there, right? Where it's fastball, slider, curveball.
They're all just like a 20-something-year-old Kyle Gibson. Everybody's Kyle Gibson for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Which I like. Like, there's value there, right? But like, you got to mix in a little bit more impact
as well. Yeah,
I want a little bit more stuff, but I guess they got that in the Tink Hences of the world, and now whatever the hell happened with Quinn Matthews. Swanson was pretty insane down the stretch of the season out of the bullpen in the Texas League in Double-A. Last 25 appearances, had a 1.23 ERA. Doesn't really walk a ton of guys out of the pen and gets a lot of ground balls. So this looks like a guy that could be in their bullpen next year. It's a heavy sinker. that I think it really allows him to quickly get outs, and then he's got a pretty good slider as well. So I think this is kind of an early audition for him for the Cardinals bullpen and a middle relief role potentially as well.
What if it's just Swanson and we're being hardos? Like
We could be
we're trying to acknowledge the V, and it's like, oh, it's Swanson, and it's like,
Swanson.
no,
I
I
like
don't think so.
Swanson though.
Yeah, it's more Nordic than just Swanson. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. But we're gonna put our solar socks caps on in a moment. Before that, quick break. Saxes and saxophone. The Mesa Solar Sox. They are comprised of the Red Sox, the Cubs, the Angels, the A's, and the Rays. And we'll start with the Boston Red Sox here. I will tell you, very underwhelmed by the names that they're sending.
Yeah.
Brooks Brannon, a catcher, Caden Rose, an outfielder, Max Ferguson, an infielder in their pitching group, Cooper Adams, Zach Fogel, Danny Kerwin, Connor Steinbaugh, Tyler Uberstein. What I take from this is that Marcelo Meyer is not healthy.
Yeah, no, you just didn't seem like he was going to be ready in time, and I think they just want him to rest and get right. But we don't give them credit for Nico Cavadas being here.
I don't see Cavadas on the initial screenshot, so he was a late ad. Good catch.
I don't know why he's on here on the roster.
Well, also, Cavadas is an angel.
I know. That's why I made the joke, because like he's on the roster right now as I'm looking at it, and for whatever reason they don't even have the Angels logo. It's just a little baseball.
Dude.
But I was hoping we could give him a little credit, because Cavadas might be the most interesting player, even with like loose ties on this team that the Red Sox sent. I mean, I don't mean to I don't mean that in a negative way. Any of the Red Sox players, like several of these guys, I'm sure could be big leaguers, but in terms of just prospect intrigue, I feel like anytime you end up sending like the backup catcher, it's just because you have to send X amount of players, and you just like, all right, well, someone's gonna need to catch. We got you. We'll take
Everybody's tired. You got
it. So I mean, I don't have a ton. I do think that there's going to be some intrigue with some of these arms, just because of the fact that that's where the Red Sox are at now, where you have to start to pay attention to their arms and some of the undervalued and dig a little bit deeper through that system. And I think like a Danny Kerwin is an example of that, where he's got that patented cutter at 90 that I think we've seen a lot of these Red Sox pitchers throw, and then it's slider, four-seam sinker, splitter, curve. It's like kitchen sink approach. So that's a guy that could have some interest. But I think for the most part, I don't have a ton on any of these guys, but I do expect that when I'm out there, I'm going to see something from one of these Red Sox arms and say, oh, okay, they're doing something here. I know Zach Fogel had a pretty good year as a shorter left-handed pitcher that I think was decent out of the pen. But again, I just don't have a ton on any of these guys. It's like you mentioned, not the most exciting group in the world. But just on Fogel real quick, it's low 90s, but held opponents to 636 OPS, 74 strikeouts, 33 walks. So, and that's a guy that was effective out of the pen as a lefty. But it just seems like they're just sending in some guys that they want to see a little bit more of what they've got, maybe out of the bullpen with some of these arms.
Before we get to the Cubs, 30 seconds of breaking news thought. Farhan Zaidi is out as director of baseball operations in San Francisco. Your 2-sentence pitch on why that's the right move.
I think they should have done that a year or so ago. Sorry, 2-sentence pitch. Look at the development of their players over the last couple years.
That's a 1-sentence pitch. You have another sentence to work with, too.
It has not been very good, yet with a lot of reluctance to move on or make changes.
I love that. That's great. Okay, my 2 sentences. Since that weird fever dream in 2021, they've been incredibly underwhelming at the big league level, period. Furthermore, they have lacked ability to develop their prospects, period. There we go. That's awesome.
Marco Luciano, I wonder if he'll still be an outfielder under the new regime.
Ouch. Okay. Now the Chicago Cubs. Moises Ballesteros is going to the Arizona Fall League. Fire me up. Ben Cowles is going as well. Cowles was part of the return for Mark Leiter Jr., I want to say. Jonathan Long is going as well, an infielder. And then the pitching group, Grant Kipp, Shane Marshall, Sam Thorson, Vince Riley, and Luis Rujano. Cowles is a name that I know he and Jack Neely came back, and Neely was the one that I think caught a couple more headlines at the end of the year for Cubs circles. But Ballesteros is the massive headliner, and I feel like Cowles is probably number 2. No,
Yeah, Cowles is fun, and I think it's just an opportunity to see what you got here. The Yankees seem to just have a knack for finding these smaller, just spark plug type of players that kind of outpunch their frame, and Cowles seems like that. Caleb Durbin's the ultimate example of that, and I love him, and he's still in the system.
yeah,
I think the Yankees actually like him, but Cowles is a guy that could definitely fill a big league role, and had an 829 OPS this year, mostly in Double A, and can do a lot of things pretty well. Played a lot of shortstop too, so looks like he could be a guy that fills in there and can move all over the infield. So yeah, I'm excited to see a little bit more of him. But I mean, Ballesteros is the big story here, right? I mean, I just want to see what the defensive progression looks like. I know for the Cubs, they love having guys in that Arizona Fall League where they're facilities right there. So when they're not playing games, and it's not like Ballesteros is going to be playing every day, he's been getting a lot of work in too. So it's that combination. I know that was huge for Owen Casey, and he talked about that. Like he didn't leave Arizona the whole summer 2 years ago, and I think that was a big part of him making his leap that he made. And I think it could be similar for Ballesteros, who still has such a long way to go defensively, but is there offensively. Like that bat is going to play, and I think for him, it's hey, get your BP in obviously, and stay tuned up offensively. But this should be the offseason of defense and defense and defense and defense. And if he can get himself to even be fringy defensively, like this guy's going to be their everyday catcher sooner rather than later. So I think knowing that, seeing the opportunity there that's his to take, knowing that the bat is already where he needs it to be for the position. Of course, it can keep getting better, but I don't think that should be anywhere near the focus. And just being with the Cubs brass and being able to play in legitimate games, I can't wait to just see what the defense looks like as he gets those reps and see if he can make some progress. And if he can't, at least I think by the end of this AFL stint and maybe through the first half of the season, if things aren't getting better, at that point you can maybe start to shift your focus too. So it does give you some clarity if it doesn't get better.
got you. Anybody else on the Cubs? Like pitching wise, is there anybody that jumps out here? Grant Kipp, Shane Marshall, Sam Thorson, Vince Riley, Luis Rujano. I haven't seen any of those names before, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, and I know, like, just with how much talent there is in the minor leagues, like, you can already see the comments of, like, how could you miss this guy? He had 20 straight scoreless innings down the stretch in high A.
I
Yeah,
apologize.
I'm sorry in advance. Like, there's I know that we're going to miss one or two of those guys, but I want to make sure we didn't miss Thorson, who did have some crazy numbers down the stretch. He is 26. So it is worth noting that he is 26 and had been doing this at low A and then just 2 games in high A. And I think he dealt with some injuries in the past. I mean, I was impressed when I saw this guy all the way back, I think on the Cape Cod League, if I'm not mistaken, where the stuff was crazy, but he battled command issues. And I think if you look at the last 12 games of the season where he did not allow a single earned run, 24 strikeouts and 15 1/3 innings, it's a 41% K rate. He also walked 15% of batters. So super loud stuff. We'll see if he can throw enough strikes, but it's mid to upper 90s, closer to the upper 90s when he's fresh, and a banger slider. So Thorson could be a bullpen piece for them.
From the big leagues to the fall league, Sam Bachman and Kyron Paris are going on behalf of the LA Angels. The full grouping for the Los Angeles Angels: Cole Fontenelle, David Mershon, Kyron Paris, and then the pitching group: Logan Britt, Sam Bachman, Jack Dashwood, Brandon Dufault, and Sammy Natera Jr. The names that I know are Paris and Bachman, and they should be in the big leagues, but unfortunately, development kind of evaded them. They were put in really unfortunate situations, I think, where they were fast tracked, and now all of a sudden, the fall league is a get right month for Kyron Paris and Sam Bachman. Are we serious?
Yeah. I mean, there's some quotes from around draft time from the Angels on Sam Bachman that are crazy. I
Was that
encourage
2020?
Yeah, 21.
Okay, 21 is less excusable. 2020, I do view as like, hey, if you had a mulligan in the 2020 draft, I get it, because you got 15 games, and you might have gotten 0 games of high
No,
schoolers. But
I forgive any draft mistakes in 2020.
yeah,
Bachman was 21, and
okay.
there was a quote. I want to say that it came from their general manager. I think it came from Perry. That is unreal. But I'll have to dig that up later in the episode or for another episode. But hopefully Bachman can get right and be, a bullpen piece for them. We saw, what that stuff flashed at Miami of Ohio before they took him 9th overall in 2021. There's some intrigue, honestly, with their arms, though. Jack Dashwood, 6'6", 235 pounds. Another guy's going to be 27 years old, but missed most of the year, got back at the end working out of the bullpen, and was downright nasty, like absolutely nasty in Double-A. As a lefty, 6'6", with a fastball in the mid-90s and a banger slider, like it's a guy that could be in the bullpen for them, next year if he looks good. And that they don't care about level progression or anything like that. So if he looks good here, he probably will be in the bullpen. And then Sammy Natera, another older guy, going to be 25 years old during his stay in the fall league here, but 6'4", 215-pound lefty that missed the entirety of the season up until like August. And then after returning was disgusting, like absolutely disgusting. Only allowed 1 earned run in his, I believe it was 5 appearances, 5 starts, and he built up slowly. It was 2 innings, 2 innings, 3 innings, 3 innings, 5 innings. And then the last time out there, 5 innings in high A for Tri-City, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 7 Ks.
Wow.
So I'm interested to see. The whiff numbers are crazy. So he must be getting some ride on the fastball. Slider looks gross as well. And he mixed in some changeup. So Natera might be a guy for them here. That's definitely someone I'm excited to see more of and just see what it looks like. But yeah, surprised actually that the Angels are sending some intriguing arms, I think.
Yeah, that's encouraging, especially because they're sending 3 bats, and one of them is Kyron Paris. Like,
yeah, the bat side is a little different. I mean, if they're sending Nico Cavadas too, apparently, so they're sending 3 big league bats potentially, which is weird. And then Brandon Default, he hasn't thrown since 23. So I assume Tommy John or something.
Yeah,
but in 23, he's another guy 6'5". He's a righty, was sitting 97, 98 miles per hour. So, I mean, he could be back off Tommy John. It could be a little bit less, or he could be sitting 98, 99. So props to the Angels. They've got some fun arms heading out here. And I think that's big. I don't know the last time we can say that.
I mean, they have a bunch of arms in that stable right now. And like, I'm thinking about, Detmer spending some time in AAA, but at the end of the day, man, you have Dana, Kohanowitz, Klassen, Aldegari, and now these guys that are in the fall league too. Like, all of a sudden there's quantity there, and you hope that it turns into a little bit of quality. And I mean, dude, you spray the board like that, you're going to get at least 2 of those guys that turn into something somewhat quality.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And one more for you. Sorry, Logan Britt. He was a hitter for Abilene Christian in 2023.
Cool.
But now they've got him throwing. So see what that looks like on the mound as well.
Easy.
6'5", 200. So I'm always interested in that stuff.
2 more teams make up the Solar Sox. The Oakland A's are one of those teams that helps make up the Solar Sox. They send the catcher Daniel Susac, who I do believe was a first-round pick a couple of years ago. Denzel Clark is going as well, the Oakland A's prospect. Henry Bolte, who had a phenomenal year in high A, but there was some serious swing and miss there. And then the pitchers that they send, Tyler Baum, Micah Dallas, Wander Guante, Mitch Myers, and Jake Walkinshaw. This hitting assortment, like, there's some name intrigue here. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Susac, I don't think has been everything that they'd hoped, since drafting him, but there's been flashes. And as a catcher, you can be a little bit more patient. He's still just 23. There's clearly some power there. Very aggressive, so some things he needs to rein in. But with the way that you've seen Shea Langeliers, kind of be able to develop and what he was able to do this year. And also Susac had a really good year in 23. So I'm just interested to see what it all looks like. I think he was a little banged up this year, and this could be a nice bounce back opportunity for him. And who knows, could end up being a trade chip for them too. If he shows well out here in the fall league and they want to make a move for some pitching and start to try to make this team a little bit more competitive, because we talked about it, the core is actually getting pretty fun there. Just put out a piece on Lawrence Butler and his swing adjustments and how he looks like a guy that could be a fixture in that lineup for the foreseeable future. It's just an opportunity here to get him going and potentially turn him into a little bit more of a highly regarded prospect. Bolte is just the classic. Okay, he showed us a lot of really good things this year.
Yeah.
But can we get him to shore up some of the shortcomings that, I think are going to have his critics wondering if he's going to be able to hit enough to be a big leaguer?
Right.
He's 21. He just turned 21. So time is on his side. But this is the place to cut down on your 36% in zone whiff rate, right? Like this is a place where you need to figure out how to up that 55% contact rate. He ran a 90th percentile of 108 miles per hour this year. He's a patient hitter. But there's clearly going to need to be some changes to make more contact. And you can kind of say the same thing for Denzel Clark, right? And I got my first look at Denzel Clark at the same time I saw Lawrence Butler. Clark has been out there before. The tools are so crazy for Denzel Clark that you are going to give this guy every opportunity to figure it out. And I actually think he showed some good things this year. He got the strikeout rate to 30% while still climbing against more challenging levels. He's continued to be productive. And I like, okay, yeah, he's going to strike out. But if he can find a way to get that a little bit more reasonable, the EVs are crazy. The speed is ridiculous. And he can go get it with the best of them out there in center field when he's locked in. This is a guy that I think a lot of people were skeptical whether he was going to be able to hit enough. And with the improvements he's made approach-wise and with the finish that he had to the year in terms of being able to slash the K rate, I think this is a perfect opportunity to try to build on that as well, because the slug took a hit when that happened as well. So can you now add the slug back to the equation with the way you were able to cut the strikeout rate down the stretch? Only 23% strikeout rate over the final 30 games for Denzel Clark.
Wow. Any pitchers jump out to you? Like, I know Tyler Baum and Micah Dallas are names that sound somewhat familiar, but for me, the intrigue lies in a Denzel Clark and a Bolte, because the tools are undeniable, like you're saying. It's just a matter of refinement, and I feel like Bolte, there's more optimism around that refinement versus Clark. We've had time to get a little bit pessimistic that refinement may not come.
Yeah, and at least you have the trend. So it's like, okay, can you extrapolate on that trend with another 20, 30 games here?
Right.
I think, Tyler Baum throws hard, doesn't have great command, but it's a nasty slider and a nasty changeup. So just see what happens there. Mitch Myers is more of a softer thrower from the right side. Nothing crazy there either, but locates the slider really well. Wander Guante looks like he could be an innings eater potentially, and showed some decent things through stretches. So maybe that's a guy that can find a little bit more consistency with the secondaries to be that late innings eater. And then Walkinshaw's 28. So I mean, he'll be one of the older guys in this league, but he was hurt for a lot of the year, and I think still looks like he could be like a depth arm and put some solid numbers together when he was healthy in Double-A as a ground ball guy. So nothing of major intrigue though from the Ace brass, I think, on this team.
Last but not least on Mesa is the Tampa Bay Rays. And I know you're very excited for what Tampa is sending. They're sending friend of the program, Trey Morgan. They're also sending Matt Horvath and Xavier Isaac. Morgan and Isaac, they cannot avoid each other right now. So it's good that they like each other. There's no doubt about that. And then the pitchers that they're sending, Alexander Alberto, Derek Eddington, TJ Fontaine? Fontaine, I guess. Fountain. Jack Hartman and Jackson Lancaster.
So there's some fun arms in the fold here. Well, let's start with the bats. Trey Morgan, as we mentioned, had him on the show and one of our favorite interviews of the season. I'm excited to just get there early and see Trey Morgan versus Xavier Isaac BP and the stories that Trey was telling about how they like to egg each other on, where Trey will slap it all over the field and then Isaac will just put it over the scoreboard and say, can you do that? So, I mean, but from the Isaac perspective, right, he gets to Double-A and the swing and miss kind of reared its head a little bit. So, can he kind of take what he learned in Double-A and just try to shore up the swing and miss side of things? Trey Morgan, I think it's just getting more comfort continuously in the outfield, continuing to tap into more of that power. And I think for Trey, it's the guy that really, I think, has emerged as a dude for them. And I think just being able to build on that. Horvath is a guy that they get outside of the organization, probably just want a more extended look at, and also is a toolsy guy that has struggled with making as much contact as you'd like to see. So just being able to get out there and I think work on the strikeout rate and try to tap into the power a little bit more out there. But I mean, I'm always going to be excited to see Xavier Isaac and Trey Morgan. There's no doubt about that. But I think the arms that they're sending are extremely interesting because it's a lot of converted or former two-way guys that have some crazy data points on their stuff that I just can't wait to see as we get a more extended look at them as pitchers. But just starting with Jack Hartman, who I don't think has the hitting background The other guys, he was upper 90s. He's sitting 97 with I think great ride to the fastball and a disgusting slider that he landed for a strike 70% of the time. Like that's a guy that I expect to just really solidify himself as okay. Well, he's probably going to be a bullpen arm for us sooner rather than later in Tampa. Derek Eddington is 6'8".
Huh.
Indie ball discovery for the Rays, if I'm not mistaken, and he can really run it up there, like really run it up. I don't like the delivery at all, but there's not a lot of 6'8" guys other than like Bailey Ober where you're gonna like the delivery. But in his last time out, he threw in a playoff game against Hudson Valley in High A, and he was sitting 99. And I think there's more in there. Like there's minimal use of the lower half here. It's a very upright, just like throw it. But the slider's gross, and like I just want to see what the development could look like for a 6'8" guy that was an indie ball, I think undrafted guy, obviously, that just has some crazy stuff. So just classic Rays, like what do they have here? I think that's another example of that. And then Jackson Lancaster.
Yeah.
That's a converted guy, or at least he was a two-way guy that I know some teams saw as a outfielder over pitcher, and the Rays saw pitcher. And I think they were right here because the stuff is really interesting. He's a 6'1" lefty, but he gets some impressive ride on the heater, and he's got just a good feel to pitch. It's 92, but with good ride, he's got a nasty slider. He's mixed in some good changeups. With how athletic he is on the mound as a guy that like could go get it in center field. Yeah. Like I'm very interested to see what the development looks like there. Alexander Alberto is 6'8" as well in the upper 90s. So that's just another guy that you're going to want to just tune into and see. He's 6'8", running it up there, and it's pretty low effort. And then TJ Fontaine, I think, is another guy that was hitting as well. And I think is just a lot of fun in terms of what he's been able to find on the mound. It's low 90s, but with good ride. I think it's a ton of vert, gets tons of chase at the top. Disgusting changeup, like disgusting. 6'4" lefty that it's like a screwball type of changeup. It's 77 miles per hour that held opponents to a $109 batting average this year. And this guy threw a lot. He had 32 appearances, 236 total plate appearances against him. And he held opponents to a 109 batting average off the changeup, and then a pretty good slider that he'll mix in here and there as well. So Fontaine, another converted guy that already has a feel for the changeup. Like I'm excited to see what it looks like as he builds more on the mound.
Damn. Oh, by the way, 30 more seconds worth of breaking news. The new president of baseball operations for the San Francisco Giants, Buster Posey. Your thoughts?
I like that. I like that a lot. There was a story that came out that, Posey had to like intervene and like get the contract, conversations pushed across the finish line with Matt Chapman. So I think that probably put a bad taste in, ownership's mouth where they're just like, okay, if Posey's already taken control here, let's just let him have control. By the way, Alexander Alberto sat 98 over his final 8 appearances of the season in LA.
And more color on Derek Eddington, by the way. It wasn't just like 1 year of indie ball and he was really good for a minute. It was 3 years of indie ball. 2022 got his first taste of independent baseball. 23 the entire year in indie ball. 33 innings. He walked 24 guys. And this year he faced 10 batters, got 3 2/3 innings, 1 hit, 7 Ks, no walks, no hit by pitch. Like he was just amazing. So the Rays signed him. He was playing for the Windy City Thunderbolts in Crestwood, Illinois. Great Qdoba there back in the mid-2010s. Not sure if it's still there or not. His manager for the Windy City Thunderbolts the last 2 seasons, Bobby Jenks.
But that's electric.
We love that. So,
and the last thing on Fontaine, he was hitting quite a bit, like DHing for San Diego State. Like the guy could swing it a little bit. So some fun athletes that are being sent out there from the Rays.
No doubt. All right, we are going to get to the, what are we doing, the Peoria Javelinas? Yeah, we are. We're going to get to them in a moment. One more quick break. The Peoria Javelinas are comprised of the Atlanta Braves, the Miami Marlins, the Milwaukee Brewers, the San Diego Padres, and the Seattle Mariners. And we'll start with the Atlanta Braves here. They send Drake Baldwin, who I know you're doing backflips that you get to see live. They send Drew Compton and David McCabe as well. That's the hitter group. Then the pitchers, they send Ryan Barassa, Isaac Gallegos, Landon Harper, Hayden Harris, and Adam Meyer. Baldwin is the headliner. I'll let you, get some thoughts out on Baldwin here, but who are the other guys with intrigue as well?
I think the way Compton finished the year gives him some intrigue here. As a switch hitter. Defensively, I think that's a big part of why he's out there. Is he just a first base only guy? And if he is, like, okay, you're going to really need to see him mash. But the way he finished the year, I thought was quite impressive, where he slashed 342, 429, 474 down the stretch. And high A there. So we'll see how he does against some of the more challenging arms, but a lot of multi-hit games. And so it seems to be a nice little blend of field to hit approach and enough power. But can he tap into more power as a first base type? Probably going to need to, as it's been more hit over power for him as a switch hitter. But I just think this is an intriguing bat that with the way he finished, there's definitely reason to want to see more. Don't need to tell you why I'm pumped to see Baldwin. I've told you, I think he's the most big league ready catcher in the minor leagues. And I think there's a reason why he's going to the fall league is because I think that the Braves want to figure out if there's potentially room for him on the opening day roster, and this runway it will be longer for him from the fall league all the way to, I think the spring training side of things. He could be a little bit better at limiting the run game. So I think that's going to be something that'll be a focus for him. I don't have much on the Braves arms here. I don't know if there's any guys that you saw in triple or anything like that, but unfortunately, some of the Braves' more exciting arms were banged up this year, and guys that you're probably just not going to send to the fall league because they either just got back and they don't want to push them too much more, or are still on the shelf, like an Owen Murphy. I thought maybe we'd see a J.R. Ritchie, but I think they figured he threw enough this year, which is totally fine. Like Landon Harper is upper 80s, so. Like, I'm interested to see if that was a trend at the end of the year where the velo was dipping. But usually when you see that, like, generally that's not a guy that you send to the fall league to throw more. So this also might just be a see what we've got with some of these guys. Like, I think the Braves are a little bit more ruthless with their Arizona fall league sends. Like, it's not just guys that they're excited about. It's guys where I think they want some clarity on, period. So that's always the fun wrinkle in this thing. But Hayden Harris had some good numbers in AAA. I don't know if you saw him much in Indy.
I didn't get to see him. I didn't see him net this year.
But lefty, low release, and that can, I think, sneak it up on you a little bit with the carry. Seems to get a ton of whiff on that fastball from the low release. So I think he could be a big league reliever. He's probably got some intrigue there.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we were going to see a Burkhalter, but I guess not. Like, again, kind of same deal. Him and J.R. Ritchie, hey, you're back. Do we want to really exhaust you like that? And the answer seems to be no with a lot of guys like this.
Exactly. And then Barassa, nasty split.
Cool.
So I always like to see a good split. So it just seems like a lot of guys that they're just trying to see if they could be fast track type of relievers or guys that in the upper levels, like, is this a guy that we can actually consider for the bullpen for us or not? But other than that, I don't think there's much beyond that.
Got you. The Miami Marlins. The Marlins are sending Kemp Alderman, Andrew Pintar, who was acquired in the Puck deal as well, or no?
Yes, he was along with Davis and De Los Santos.
Okay, so Pintar, who was acquired in the Puck deal, Jay Bashirs, who was part of that big Scott Hoeing swap with San Diego. They also send Justin King, Pat Montverde, Junsuk Shim, who was acquired for Brian De La Cruz, Justin Storm, and Brandon White. Shim is the name because we've seen, 8 innings of him so far in his minor league career. But Alderman, Pintar, and Bashirs, this certainly has some appeal when it comes to the Marlins brass possibly seeing a little bit more of those secondary, tertiary pieces in their minor league hitting stable now.
No doubt. And Alderman's a guy that, in terms of those secondary pieces, probably has as much upside as anybody with how hard he hits the ball. 90th percentile, 109 miles per hour. Problem is the swing path is just not optimal at this point. So put the ball on the ground at about a 51% clip. But just turned 22. I think there's a lot to potentially dream on here. So he seems like the perfect candidate of a player that you send out there. And just want to see what that power could potentially look like if he can translate it into games a bit more. Pintar is just one of those guys that missed a little bit of time down the stretch, and I think is a fun blend of speed and a little bit of power potential that he showed at points this year. So just another guy that when you trade for somebody, just want to see a little bit more of.
Yeah.
Bashir's same story, where I know that the Marlins actually were really excited to get him in the deal. I know the numbers are not the most exciting in the world, but I know that they are very high on him, and he came in. I think that Tanner Scott deal as well. So just some fascinating, I guess, intrigue for them there. But the arms, I think, are the interesting side, where there's some underrated pieces here. Jung-Suk Shim, we've talked a bunch about in terms of stuff. It'd be up there with anybody in the fall league, assuming his health, where you can run it up to the mid to upper 90s. It's a diabolical splitter. He can spin it at over 3,000 RPM. Like, he's got to be circled for me. Like, I will not miss a Jung-Suk Shim appearance. I'm going to try to find out beforehand when he's scheduled to throw, and I will make sure that I don't miss it. But I think easily one of the most underrated arms being sent out here is got to be Justin King, because King, I mean, in terms of the stuff, it's 96 with ride from the left side. Opponents at 227 against his fastball, but a 38% in zone whiff rate and a 36% chase rate on the fastball. So, like, this guy could be in their bullpen next year. And I think this is an opportunity for him to show that, because he threw really well down the stretch in Double-A, and with a good showing in the fall league, he could skip Triple-A if they have an open spot in the bullpen, or he goes to Triple-A and is quickly pushed up to the big leagues. With I think what he can do, and with what they might trade from still out of that bullpen.
Wow. Monteverde, how did he throw? Was he hurt this year?
No, I don't think he was hurt. Maybe missed a few starts here and there. He threw fine. I was surprised to see him sent out there, because it's 89 to 91 miles per hour. But they kind of sent him. He was kind of shuttled back and forth from Double and Triple-A.
Okay.
This might just kind of be a what do we have with him at this point type of thing, or they wanted to go out there and try to find a new pitch, or they want to try to transition him into a bullpen role, because he was fully starting this year. I was a little surprised to see him sent out there, but he's a guy that I guess they still have some hope can be like a depth arm for them.
Gotcha. Okay. Anybody else on the Marlins that jumps out to you, or no?
Brendan White is 6'8", and that's all I know about him.
Nice.
Brandon White. That's all I really know.
Cool.
So anytime a pitcher is that tall, I want to see what it looks like, but it's low 90s right now for Brandon White.
Did he also play for manager Bobby Jenks in Crestwood, Illinois? I hope so.
I don't think so, unfortunately.
I thought every guy that's 6'8" played for Bobby Jenks in Crestwood, Illinois, but not the case. All right, 3 more teams here. The Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers are sending 8 people to the Arizona Fall League. They send Luis Lara, who was at one point a top 100 prospect at Just Baseball. They also send Juan Baez and Brock Wilken, the former Wake Forest Demon Deacon. Those are the 3 hitters. The 5 pitchers: Ryan Burchard, Will Childers, Coleman Crow, Mark Manfredi, Nick Merkel. This hitting group, these 3, all of them have some intrigue here. Lara will start with the outfielder, and then we'll get to Baez and Wilken. Lara, why did he take the step back? I know he was an elite zone contact guy. Did that take a step back, or was it like, hey, the impact still isn't here and you're a year older?
I think a little of both. I thought I'm still a believer in Lara, and he had a really solid finish to the year, where I think over his final 30 games that OPS was at 750, and then it was better and better. I think over 800 over the final 20 games. The challenge was, I think you saw the elite zone contact on fastballs, but as he started to see higher quality secondary stuff, a little bit more swing and miss crept in, and not anything that was concerning. Right?
It was
strikeout
really
rate.
good and not elite.
And he can't be really good. Bat to ball wise. He needs to be close to elite to I think be the player that I was hoping and still believe he can be. Yeah. Where if you're whiffing at an average clip against secondaries, all of a sudden your contact rates still strong, but creep closer to 80% overall and 86% in the zone. Which for him, he's got to be higher than that, because the EVs are just never going to quite be there. So I think he's a perfect candidate with the strong finish that he had to the year, being that he's still just 19 years old, and the makeup is off the charts. He's a switch hitter that can go get it in center. So I think this is a great opportunity to try to build on the way that he finished the year. And I still think that the Brewers are quite high on him as a prospect. Wilken missed some time getting hit in the face, but also it's just that you have the question of the swing and miss. The glove has come along at third base, so just continuing to build on that and just seeing how he can learn to tap into the power in games more. That's still a fun player that I'm going to be excited to get a look at any time. And then Juan Baez, I think, is one of the more underrated prospects in that Brewers system where, I mean, the feel to hit has always been there. And now he's really starting to hit the ball harder. And the approach has gotten a little bit better. I would have liked to see a little bit more power, obviously, there. He only hit 1 home run, but we saw 24 extra base hits, which was a step in the right direction. Remember, this guy was 18 at the start of the year, playing already in full season ball. So just seeing if he can tap into a little bit more juice. I mean, he walked 29 times and struck out 33 times. It's a 9% strikeout rate, 8.7 to be exact. So like the feel to hit is special, and he can move around the infield a little bit. So just if there's a way to tap into even fringy power, this guy could be an everyday player.
How about the pitchers here? Burchard, Childers, Crow, Manfredi, and Merkel. Coleman Crow, I know, is one of those double-A guys that, like he was not a tack ball merchant, but he was a guy that supremely benefited from the experimental baseball at the beginning of the 2023 season. But then he was traded, and he kind of slinked away, and his name hasn't really come up too much since then. What's the word on him?
Because unfortunately, like not long after, underwent Tommy John surgery.
Oh, there we go.
So that'll do that. And what's interesting though is, to your point, he really gained vert, and he's always been a vert fastball guy. So like that's going to be a part of his game, and I think that's why he's an intriguing arm. But he really benefited from it. He was getting crazy ride on the fastball. I think he was one of the biggest gainers in induced vertical break. And then he gets hurt and we don't see him again. Right. So the data that we have to work with is that tacked ball, crazy ride fastball. I think Crow's a good arm. But what we saw in the Southern League for those handful of starts before he went down was like some of the best fastball, just stuff that we had seen. So what does it look like now in a neutral setting here as he comes back from Tommy John? I still think this is a solid arm. So just understanding who is Coleman Crow at this point will be interesting to see. Will Childers is 23, another guy with a mid 90s to upper 90s fastball out of the pen, and a solid curveball and cutter. I don't have a ton on Nick Merkel, like 6'7", 255. Like, again, a lot of big arms getting sent out here.
And he didn't play for Bobby Jenks either, it seems.
No, well, he's an inch too short.
Got it. But yeah. Is Will related to Tyler? I had to do it before we got any farther.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Kitchen sink guy a little bit. Fastball, curveball, slider, changeup. Like, it's gets some ground balls. Opponents did not swing it well against him this year in kind of this swingman role. So is he more of a reliever? Do they try to stretch him out as a starter? Is there some more velo in there? I think those are all things that they probably want to find out.
Manfredi is Rob's alter ego when he puts a fake mustache on and sits in the stands at just a normal ballpark. Mark Manfredi. Totally like glasses and fake mustache. The Bobby Valentine.
It does seem like a fake name. Kind of good stuff too, though. Like good whiff numbers on the fastball. Gets good carry there. Changeup is nasty. It was really effective for him. And then he's got the slider and curveball that'll mix in as a taste breaker as well. So he's got a legit pitch mix, but another dude that they used kind of as a starter early in the year and then more of a reliever down the stretch. I don't know if that was to, just preserve some innings, but then you sent him to the fall league anyway. So what's his role will be fun to find out, because I think there's big league stuff here.
Yeah. Two more teams, the San Diego Padres here. They're the team that's sending Ethan Salas and Leo DeVries. Everybody else, I'm sorry, you are just kind of icing on top of the cake. But the cake is Salas, the catcher, going. Leo Dallas DeVries is going. Romeo Sanabria is the other position player going. Then their pitcher group, Ryan Berger, who I remember, big guy that throws like a big guy. You also have Luis Herman, Harry Gustin, David Morgan, and Gabe Moser. Gabe Moser, I remember really good interactions with him in high A. I think he has bounced between double and triple A for the most part over the last few years. But I mean, this group is headlined by Ethan Salas and Leo DeVries, and there is zero doubt about that.
I mean, you've got two of the best prospects in the sport and two of the most exciting teenage prospects that we've seen in some time. Both, heading out there, it's so exciting for us and for them too, right? Like DeVries had such a special year, especially with the way that he finished, and then doesn't get to run through the tape because he gets hurt. Like get back out there and recapture that momentum. Not that it's that important for him, but
Right.
if he shows well, you're going to see them quite aggressively assign him. But I think just with the way that he was really swinging it, especially from the right side, I mean, you want to get him back out there and just keep building on that. And on top of that, the defense looked like it got a lot better at shortstop. I'm
Mhm.
very eager to see more of that. Just getting those reps there, I think, will be fantastic. And Salas, I mean, it's the glove has been awesome behind the dish, especially for his age. It's rare catcher situation where I actually want to see the bat here, right? Like
Yeah.
you're in a position where the ball is going to fly now. There was a couple little decent stretches at the end, but still, I didn't really see that tangible shift from Salas. Here's your opportunity to try to find that. And another guy that it's not going to be because of any shortcomings from the makeup department or willingness to work. So
Right.
now being out there by the complex, getting after it, maybe not needing to worry as much about handling a pitching staff.
Right.
It's a lot more encompassing when it's the same pitchers that you're working with, and it's obviously important and imperative for you as a younger guy at the high A level with some pitching talent that was there, especially early in the year. Where now it's like, yeah, you're working with the staff, but these pitchers are working on what they want to work on. They're going to kind of tell you what they're going to do, and you go from there. And Salas can really actually focus on the bat and getting that to a point where he can, turn into the hitter that a lot of people believe he can be, and even I think he can be. So, there's going to need to be a shift, I think, at some point with his offense. And I know you can talk about the youth and all that, and that's great. He's still just 18, but I
Yeah.
think the fall league would be a great start for this positive offensive trend for Ethan Salas.
For sure. DeVries, do you have many expectations for him? Like, for some reason, I have a very low bar set for Leo DeVries, and I feel like he's going to clear it, but he's just so young, and he proved so much already this regular season. I feel like this is only an opportunity for positive to come out of it. I will not be anywhere close to sounding an alarm if he goes 0 for 25.
I wholeheartedly agree. This is different arms that he's going to be seeing, man. Like
Yeah.
it was really amazing what he was able to do, and I think the goal should be to see him do some more good things. But low A is the same story with Zaire Hope, right? Like low A to the fall league when the pitching is the way that it is this year, where
Yeah.
we've got a lot of triple A arms, we've got a lot of I think even high A, double A arms
Yeah.
that miss some time. You've got some guys with big league time. There's a lot more polish and execution that you are going to see here. And there might just be some stretches where he sees sequences and stuff that he just hasn't seen before. I think that's great. I think that's absolutely fantastic for him. And if he struggles, it's like, okay, wow, this is what I'm going to see. And guess what? It's probably what he's going to see as soon as next year because of the way that the
Right.
Padres handle him. So to be able to see some of these double A, triple A arms now and be able to go to the drawing board this offseason and build on that is huge because that AJ Preller is going to aggressively push him and you don't want it to hurt him. So getting an appetizer, I think, before the main course, which is going to be AJ Preller pushing him very aggressively this year,
Right.
I think will be huge. So that and then the defense, I think just honing in and being able to get those reps at shortstop is going to be fantastic for him.
Yeah. Sanabria, the other position player, 22-year-old that was like a later round pick, 18th round pick in 22 at a community college.
Yeah.
But 66 games last year was awesome. This year, he was really good in low A as a 22-year-old. Then he was fine in high A as a 22-year-old. And then he was fine in double A as a 22-year-old. So it's impressive that he's climbed this way, but the eyes are on Salas and DeVries at this
Yeah.
point.
It's decent bat though, and I think even the way you lay it out, it's like, okay, I'm interested, right? And this is
Yeah.
a 6'3", 245-pound left-handed hitter. Like, this seems to be the type of player where corner guy, overlooked, smaller school, and all of a sudden the Padres find these guys. So
Yeah.
it might be another example of that. And I think overall it was a pretty solid year for him. So definitely still a player I'm going to be excited to just get a live look at and see what they've got there. And then on the pitching side, Bergert's the guy I think that you want to see here because this is someone that could, I think, ultimately be a late rotation piece for them and showed some really good flashes through Double A this year. I mean, there were some blow up starts that happened in the Texas League.
So
A lot
I
more
was
quality starts.
I was going to use the term upper minors innings eater. Like that's who I think Ryan Bergert is. I see Ryan Bergert and Richard Fitz in a very similar light.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's off at all. I have some hope that this guy could be a 5-starter though, like consistently. But I think it's more likely he's in that kind of Richard Fitz, like back and forth role, or they kind of use him as that swing man. But
Yeah.
it's a good slider. He's got the changeup that'll mix in enough. The fastball is decent. Like the command is good. So I mean, this is a guy that could be a 5-starter for them, but is a really solid depth arm one way or another. And you're always going to need those guys. He's kind of that 6-starter that can also, go long relief and again, kind of be that swing man for you.
Yeah. Any other? I mean, Moser. I saw he's older for AAA. He's one of the older pitchers that is going to be out here, but I don't know anything, to be honest, about Herman, Harry Gustin, or David Morgan.
Yeah, Gustin, I don't have a ton on either. Just seems to fill up the zone at decent strikeout numbers. Don't have a ton there. I have a weird feeling that Luis Herman throws fuzz. But I'm also not too familiar with him. But yeah, he does throw fuzz as I'm looking at it right now.
There you go.
Fastball average 97.5.
There you go.
This season, not a lot of strikes.
Nice.
In fact, he walked 57 and struck out 47.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, that'll be great.
But sliders gross too. I mean, I'm looking at the pitch shapes here, pretty nasty. So just like, can you be anywhere near the zone with your upper 90s fastball? That's the scary thing for hitters out here, man. A lot of guys that throw fuzz and have no idea where it's going.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about with Christian Encarnacion Strand. It's like, okay, you're back from that hit by pitch that broke your hand, and now you're going to go to a league where everyone throws fast and no one knows where it's going. That part is a little scary.
That's brutal. And like this could make for some, 3.5 hour games, which, I feel for these guys, but you do have, the full challenge system and you've got the pitch clock and everything. So, hopefully, what is it? Who was going to lead the leagues in walks? It was Glendale. Peoria might not be far behind.
Yeah. Don't let Peoria, flex their muscles, but I think they've got enough guys that just fill up the zone on this ball club. Pat Monverde is going to do his job.
No doubt. And hey, if he goes 7, he goes 7. Not the end of the world there. Last but not least, the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners are sending Colt Emerson and Cole Young here. That is the story. They send 7 guys instead of the typical 8. Jared Sundstrom is the other guy going, an outfielder. And their 4 pitchers, Jordan Jackson, Jimmy Joyce, Travis Kuhn, and Jason Ruffcorn. Sick last name, Ruffcorn. But Emerson and Young, I would love to see them share a middle infield. I would love to see Young at second, Emerson at short, or vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. And they might just be flip-flopping back and forth because both can play short. I think Cole Young is actually doesn't get enough credit for how he can play short, and it's even more imperative for him, with I think the bat maybe not fully trending the way we were hoping. Made some mechanical adjustments. We talked about it, and I thought that yes, the numbers coincided with it being positive, but I have some questions as to how it's going to allow him to tap into more power and things like that. So I just want to see him up close and personal, see how these adjustments are working, and just see what this version of Cole Young is, because he's still not going to hit for power. I think he's got to lean more into the bat to ball thing and be a really good approach. And I think he's lost even more impact. So just want to see what that all looks like. Maybe it was just the early days of the adjustment. The numbers were good, so that's encouraging. And then Colt Emerson, he's just been hurt for parts of the last 2 years, and he's still a top 20 prospect in the game because of what he can be and what he's already shown. I also want to see that glove at short. I think there's a chance he moves to third. So just being able to see more reps there. He finished the year really strong after hitting a bit of a lull and like the back third. And then the final, I think 10 games were really good. And this guy, I think, has a chance to be in the top 5 prospect conversation by the middle or end of next year. And I think this is the start of kind of building that up. He just has lost out on a lot of reps. I want to see if he can tap into that power. We know the field of hits there. It's a very, very nice swing, and he's very patient. Can he get it in the air more? 51% ground ball rate. So these 2 guys are 2 of the most exciting pieces to watch. And I mean, this team, infield-wise, is insane. I don't think there's an infield that's more exciting than this one in the AFL.
No. Is it going to be – I'm thinking like – shit, man. Wilkin at first, DeVries at third, Emerson at short, Young at second, or like there's just.
I think they're going to be moving and moving.
Yeah, they're going to be moving. Yeah, which hey, good for them. It's going to be great to watch. Anything on the pitchers? Why does Jimmy Joyce? Why does that name sound familiar?
Probably because no relation, but Joyce.
The Armando Galarraga.
Yeah, the infamous blown call there. But Jimmy Joyce, we've talked about actually. Especially when we did the Mariners system, he can throw. And this is just another one. This is a difference. There's more Jimmy Joyces in the AFL this year, where like we talk about just volatile no idea where it's going type of guys. And I know the command wasn't as good this year as he came back from some injury, but historically has thrown a ton of strikes. I just think this is a high probability big league arm. I don't know what the role will be, but he will throw big league innings because he historically has executed well and has a good feel for a changeup. Will mix in the curveball. The fastball is good enough and has some good characteristics. Like gets a lot of ground balls. This is a guy that's just going to go in there and I think make quick work of some of the younger hitters. But Joyce is a guy that could be in that bullpen next year for them. Jason Ruffcorn, I don't have a ton on, but I think when you look at some of the arms that the Mariners are sending, they're looking for that next pop-up guy, right? We talked about Morales and we talked about Logan Evans, and that was an exciting story in the system that doesn't have a ton of pitching, and that's why they went with two arms early in this year's draft with Sloan and Senja. But Ruffcorn, another guy that's 26, a little bit older, but looks like he could be fast-tracked as a bullpen piece if he can hone in on the fastball a bit more. The slider is real nasty. But are there any others at Mariner arms? Oh, we got Travis Kuhn. You got anything on Travis Kuhn?
No. Is he related to that fullback? Was it John Kuhn?
John Kuhn.
Yeah, the fullback for the Packers.
That would be cool. I'm not sure.
I live in Wisconsin now, so I got to say Packers, like Packers, not Packers.
Fun mix, four-seam, sinker, both at 95, and then a slider that gave hitters a lot of trouble this year that he landed for a strike 73% of the time. So another instance where they're probably trying to figure out which of these bullpen arms can separate themselves.
Yeah.
And then from a physical perspective, I think Jordan Jackson's probably the most intriguing. He's going to be 26. He's 6'6", 225 pounds.
2 inches shy.
Yeah, didn't quite make it. He missed a majority of this year. I think he only threw like very early in the season, so they just want to kind of make up for the lost time. Yeah. But heavy sinker, slider, changeup. See what you got with this 6'6", 225-pound guy that didn't really throw this year. But that's about it.
Cool. So we did the Javelinas, the Solar Sox, and the Desert Dogs. So we have the Saguaros, the Rafters, and the Scorpions left.
Hell yeah. Some fun teams there too. So looking forward to that. We'll be doing that on the next episode. And if you have any Arizona Fall League content that you want us to continue to add before it starts up, let us know. We'll probably do something on the top prospects or prospects we're most excited to see out there. And of course, we're going to be doing a lot of coverage from there. We'll be out there for nearly 2 weeks through the middle of October. So very pumped about that coverage. And I think you guys are going to enjoy that from a video and just podcast and everything perspective. We'll do a mailbag on the Fall League stuff out there as well. Continuing to hammer through the Diamondbacks top prospects. I realize it would probably be silly to release it when Diamondbacks fans are either going to find out that they're either going to make the playoffs or that they got bounced. They probably don't want to read too much about the prospects. So we'll have it out this week. But I think after fans have 24 to 48 hours to digest whatever happened one way or another.
Fair.
Look forward to talking prospects with you all later this week. If you could share the show, rate it, review, subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to the newsletter. Really enjoy the newsletter that we got in the episode description. Really proud of what we got going there. Guy Elijah Evans has been doing a great job on that front, especially. Follow us on Twitter. We're going to be posting highlights and stuff like that all AFL long. So you'll want to keep up there. Same with Instagram. Figured out how to do pitch overlays. So look out. Going to be in the lab showing you pitch overlays on pitchers on both the Instagram and Twitter as well. So keep up with that. And we will talk prospects with you later this week.